what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to join the community debate, then go to nathanoakley.com and join the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the Flat Earth community debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are currently joined by Wandering, what is it again? I've forgotten your full name. I'm just going to call you Wandering, I'm really sorry. The Plain Truth, Sleeping Warrior, Physics Warrior, Paul, Mark, Flat and Earth, Deanne, and Chocolate saying, good to have you all.
Hey, Nathan.
Thanks, hello, Nathan.
Hello. Really?
Good morning.
Really, guys? Hello. What ho?
Hello.
Yeah, you can't steal Travis's thing, man.
Sleeping Warrior, Travis. What's going on, guys? Chocolate.
What's up?
A lot of people around the plane.
A full house.
Around this realm.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, we've got a full house. Let's do some housekeeping. Any signs of curvature?
No, Nathan.
Nope. Arwen's not here, so only on women.
Of the
on my Statue of Liberty observations, on my Statue of Liberty, not just observations, my Statue of Liberty experiments, nope, none at all. When I was 100 miles away from the Statue of Liberty and I could see the bottom of it, yeah, no curvature.
Okay, well, I do believe you. You're gonna have to whip that scientific language abuse out of you with the word experiment. We'll move on anyway. Any signs of axial rotation?
I don't feel spinning.
No
Nathan.
signs of axis.
Nope.
So, don't know about rotation, but I don't see any axis.
No sign, no wobbling.
I'm still trying to figure out how you can have an axial tilt on a ball that's floating around in a vacuum.
Yeah, why do star trails make circular patterns when you time lapse star patterns where the direction it looks like they just revolve around us. That's the natural phenomenon that we see, is that the star trails, they go in nearly perfect circles for thousands of years. They haven't changed. I mean, what experiment shows that the constellations did change, right? With according to orbital dynamics,
they would look wobbly.
Yeah, they would look totally wobbly.
They would always say the change is negligible, right? Like the same way they always try to say, oh, Polaris has moved. It's just, a couple of degrees in the past 1,000 years. Like, come on, guys. Really? But we're moving at the ridiculous speeds that you want to convince us that we are? Like,
it's the great scale negator. It's the great scale negator.
Exactly. I can summarize that housekeeping question. I'll go for a flying ball into space that's shaped like a pear, disbalanced with masses of water and soil, and then being rotating around the tilt and around an axis. How is it retaining balance? Can you imagine the disbalance on that thing?
And being favoritism with momentum too. Playing favoritism with momentum, a secluded momentum that's separate from the entire system. Especially.
Full nonsense.
Well, here's the thing, like whenever you see pictures of Earth from quote unquote space, Earth is always it's always positioned the same way. So, but like, how are we supposed to know that that's what's happening up there in the vacuum of space where they tell us there's no up or down? So if there's no up or down, why do they always display Earth as looking the same way? Why?
It's just to give us. It's to keep us from getting confused, Chocolate. In the same way that they have the flight manuals that tell us that the reference point is over a stationary and flat plane. It's just to help us not be confused because we are so easily confused.
Yeah.
We can't handle that.
Wonderfully said, Travis.
They care about us. Oh.
Speak for yourself, Travis.
The cultist globalist.
Do you think I would speak for you, Mark? I don't even know your language.
Say that again.
I said, do you think I would speak for you? I don't even know your language.
That's a good reply.
What does that mean, Mark? Mark, what does that mean?
Dig at the Irish. It's a dig at the Irish, isn't it?
Actually, I was just quoting the Breakfast Club.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. What's that
Tumbleweed.
sound? What's that sound?
Yeah, right.
We'll get the spinning.
Right. Any scientific evidence of gravity, gentlemen?
Scientific evidence of what?
Gravity. Gravitrons.
Gravitrons, heck no. I haven't seen any of those.
No. They don't light up.
Or measured any of them either, and I've tried many times.
I think I felt gravity yesterday, but unfortunately the vacuum of space set it out.
Right, the distance to the sun then. Anybody got any of that? Any evidence of the distance to the sun? Anybody?
I can see it from here.
Yeah, we can see it. It looks like it's pretty close when we launch up weather balloons and stuff. It looks like it's pretty close, but other than that, with infrasonic sound waves, I can't measure the distance because of the fact that radiation is in waveform, and I can't manipulate it to anything else because it's a hierarchy of monetary means. So funding is a little grim here.
Fair enough.
But at the same time, I rely on John Keely's reproducible experiments. I rely on Nikola Tesla's reproducible experiments, and John Searle's spatial energy generator reproducible experiments, which all, like a lot of them, most of them definitely cannot work on a sphere, without a doubt, because the grounding level of the electromagnetism would be able to handle the distortion of a curving space. It would interrupt the wave. It would completely interrupt the wave. There's already distortions in the waves. So if there's even more, it would literally deduce the function of the calibration of the vibrations.
Nathan, the only evidence I have for distance to the sun is 93 million miles on a piece of paper. That's it.
Yeah, I haven't seen anybody.
Pretty poor.
Apparently, they judge by the light color, right? They say it's the color of the light. It's the this one's red, so it's 100 million, right, light years away, and then this one's green, so it's 200 million light years away, right? That's how they do it.
I think so. So let's just do the math. So 93 million minus 100, so that's a difference of what, 7 million? So that's easy to actually calculate on a piece of paper. But can we do it with our mind to think about it and build it? I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean,
so this is where.
Physics. I didn't even know you were here, brother. What's up?
Hey, all good.
My
good in the
bad.
plane.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
No worries. This is how we actually try to blend our reality with the paper. So if it's easy to do the math and you think that is your reality, then so be it. But when it comes to reality itself above the math or with the math, then we're going to give you our standpoint. That's my opinion. So I yield the floor.
Can we move on? Any evidence that you can have a gas pressure without a container? So anybody who looks up at the sky and says, you know what, that's the vacuum of heaven right there.
You can't have a gas pressure next to a vacuum, Nathan, without some kind of membrane. Conspiracy Cats is a physics teacher, and he tells you that you can, but he hasn't got any demonstrable evidence that this is true other than stories. And I call bullshit. and a lot of people call bullshit. Hey, did you see that thing with the moon? The moon's in the Earth's atmosphere now. That's going to have an impact on a few different things, isn't it? It's going to totally change our cosmology.
Not really. It doesn't change our argument, that's for damn sure. So it doesn't matter which way you dice it or how far out you push the atmosphere. It's an open system in a vacuum. So I don't care if you push it out another 10 million miles. It's still an open system in a vacuum, and it would disperse. It's still a second law of thermodynamics violation.
Yeah, and it will start getting, all sorts of atmospheric phenomena. When we look at the moon, we'll start to get refraction and so on. It's just ridiculous.
Makes you. How many people agree or disagree with me that they're doing this because of directly as a knee-jerk reaction, because people are asking questions and they realize that there's contradictions in the model and they're trying to patch up the holes? Anyone disagree?
Damage control times 10.
Yeah, that was the same thing I said.
I think
10 to the minus 17 Tor damage control.
Well, I think initially that's kind of one of the suspicions I had about why we were here. So back in the day, it's not that long ago, but a few years back, literally you could watch Jeranism say or do something and then watch a direct reaction from NASA, literally as a direct consequence of something he had said or exposed on his show. And that was back in the day when there was a very limited amount of people watching. And my suspicion was that it's been put out into the area of, the public so that it can, primarily, be ridiculed. So there is at least an opening for people to come in and overwhelm any information with pure ridicule. But also, you've got then a little test subject, a little mouse running around in a cage that you can have a look at if you're NASA and go, oh, thank you for exposing that hole in the cage, little mouse. Let's move you out of the way and put a little patch on that little hole there. So, yeah, I do think I suspected a few years back that was quite possibly the reason why we were here, so that they could find holes in their story and patch them up with another layer of bullshit.
Just like they found the origin of life with the space chip of a space rock. They found the origin of life. Apparently, the Japanese apparently found a reason why we exist, because they took a little piece of a space rock from 200 million miles away, and it's of a dime in weight. A U.S. dime, and they say it tells them about the origin of our existence.
Isn't that a lovely story? Talking of lovely stories, is there any evidence that we can have a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Paul
no.
Well,
he won't tell us because he says that we're too stupid to understand it. So apparently it does exist, but again, it's coming from another baller that's full of dishonesty, so we can't really believe anything with them.
Yeah, I call it occultism black magica. It's like a cognitive dissonance, but times 10. It's like a black magic spell. It's witchcraft.
Problem. Molten iron core spinning in a certain direction. If it's in the same direction as the presupposed sphere axial spin, then if they can tell us that there is a Coriolis effect and then the atmosphere gets velcroed to Earth, then why isn't Earth getting velcroed to the molten iron core if they have matching spinning directions? And in regards to that, if that's the case, in relation to each other, they'll cancel each other's spin, and the molten iron core will be just spinning with the same axial rotation as Earth is. So it will lose all the magically obtained electrical and magnetic properties. So it's a huge problem if they actually can point stuff out about it existing, because we can then totally demolish it.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Just going to read out Eric's super chat. Globers love to assert that we suffer, I think he means flat earthers, suffer from Dunning-Kruger. I believe in the most cases it's misapplied. Got some notes on it to share sometime. Oh, brilliant. Yes, that'd be wonderful, Eric. Whenever you're ready. There's no gap on the panel at the moment, unfortunately. And so, yeah, shout out to you for the super chat. Much obliged. And also shout out to Colin Turner for the super chat. Thank you very much indeed. Really do appreciate your support, both of you. Thank you very much.
I had a comment from Walter Bislin on some thread somewhere. I can't even remember what video it was on now, but it was to do with gravity. And his claim, when I asked about proof gravity, his claim is that we can measure gravity to 8 decimal places every single day with a gravimeter. And I'm like, oh, really? So how are you going to prove that it's gravity that you're measuring and not something else? And of course, they can't prove it's gravity if they're measuring gravity at all. I could just argue that they're measuring the ambient noise in the atmosphere, or they're measuring the flow of electricity from the sky down to the earth in the flow from the ether. How are you going to prove that it's gravity that you believe that you're measuring to 8 decimal places? And of course, they can't prove it, but they believe it and they claim it, but there's no proof to prove that what they are measuring is gravity. It's nonsense.
And
so the experiment of the spatial energy generator, the John Searle spatial energy generator that defies gravity entirely, or the idea or the concept of gravity, to be generous, at least, right? Because we can't experimentally detect it, but the John Searle spatial energy generator harnesses electromagnetic field interaction, like it with neodymium core and spinning mercury, and it totally floats. It floats. The density is lowered. That's really what happens, is that the density lowers. The electrons, I guess, separate.
Aren't they using magnet to create gravity? Is that what you're saying?
Well, no. Well, I suppose that's what they say, right? They're using neodymium to.
There we go. Yeah.
But the John Searle spatial energy generator proves against gravity because it defies it. So gravity can't be a law. It can't be a law that holds things together. It can easily be defied by a simple experiment that's reproducible. Like
it's a red herring.
Just by spinning magnets and with the rare earth metals and certain interactions of chemical interactions, that simply defies gravity right there. Just a little tiny experiment, micro, compared to the macro that they claim it is, that destroys their entire argument in one experiment.
Alrighty.
Spatial energy generator is reproducible. It's been used for ages and hidden from mass public for 110 years.
Just to round out housekeeping, are there any signs of the presupposition of the R value? Earth radius?
No.
No, Nathan.
Nope.
How would we know if there was? Nobody can see it. Nobody can measure it. Nobody can detect it. How would you? I always wondered how did Aristophanes, when he did his sticks in the ground experiment or observation back in his day, how did he come to the conclusion that it was a sphere in the first place for his maths?
Because he heard that Pythagoras was talking about spheres and how they're so great and like just like God and stuff. So he was like, "Oh yeah, that's my that's my path. That's the truth." Because it sounds pretty cool that spheres are like so different than everybody else the way that they think, right? So that's what it is. That's what it is.
I want to do a quick shout out to Miguel. He says, "Relative density. That is all."
That's all we can prove.
Thank you very much, Miguel.
I've been looking for a good 3 years now. I've been looking for a good 3 years for gravitational experiments, and none of them prove against relative density of what you guys are referring to. None of them prove against the relative density. None of them. None of them defy it. There's no gravitational waves. Haven't seen it.
Oh, gravitational waves are nonsense.
Oh my gosh.
The LIGO thing is it's right. I think I'm not even going to go into LIGO.
CERN is a bunch of scoundrel cowards. I just want to say that CERN is a bunch of scoundrel lying cowards. They have no idea. They have no clue the truth of this realm.
Somebody's playing something. Who's playing something? Pound says it's Anthony. Who's playing a video?
Can I say something to Nathan in regards to something that you said earlier?
Hold on. Somebody's playing something in the background.
You got to mute.
Okay, here's a particle accelerator experiment right here.
Hold on a second. I know you really want to talk. We just need to sort out the audio issue. Is that you, Anthony? Anthony.
What? It's not me, it's Travis.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Travis.
Sorry, Anthony, my bad.
You always blame me.
I know.
Nathan.
Yes?
about something that you said earlier about Jaren and NASA's lightning reflexes to reply to him. As I watched the past 3 months of the show, and it's getting bigger and bigger, and I think it will get huge. That's my just personal point of view. I think it will get really huge, and certain people are very concerned about getting that huge. So I have a proposal for one more question being added to housekeeping, like just right in the beginning. Something in the line of how desperate the glow heads are becoming about us getting bigger and bigger and louder.
You want a housekeeping question in relation to the growth of flat Earth? Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, about their fear of losing grips on it and them having a hard time arguing or something in that regards or that manner. Just a proposition for them.
Yeah, I kind of know what you're talking about. I discussed this the other day with Ranty. So I've mentioned this a few times, having watched Haunted House's video interview with Conspiracy Cats, and it was very laid back, very relaxed. But Conspiracy Cats explained how he'd basically been losing sleep and was distraught at the idea of having to contemplate that he'd been lied to on multiple levels. It's like, well, clearly just the fact that you can verbalise that means you have contemplated that. And the fact that you have means it's distressing to you and you've taken the other option. Well, you know, he's a purple pillar. He knows what's going on here and he knows our arguments. And let's put it this way. I'm not losing any sleep, despite the fact I've got a screaming kid and I don't get very much sleep anyway. But what I mean is I'm not distressing over the information I put out at all, ever. I don't lose a wink of sleep over it. But the fact that someone like that is losing sleep over it, well, doesn't that say it all? He's supposed to be confident in his absolute and total assertion of his correctness, right? What would you have to lose sleep over?
Exactly.
You got the whole body of science behind you. Why would you lose any sleep? This is the thing that confuses me about the whole Globers being triggered about this at all. If you guys are comfortable enough to believe that you live on a spinning ball flying around in a vacuum, then go ahead. Peace be with you. And are you trust? Why are you here trolling us?
Exactly. Have some confidence in your globy fundy belief. Just enjoy it.
Or maybe like a short news section just right after housekeeping, like how desperate are globe heads getting, because I'm sure this will annoy them, and it's always too nice to annoy them.
Because it's like it's a choice. It's like, you could always become either side, and there's one side that's always been true. It's always been true. It's been true for ancient civilizations that were far more advanced than we could ever imagine. Knew that this earth was immovable. They wrote it multiple times. They exclaimed it. They did experiments. They wrote about their experiments. They gathered data. They wrote it everywhere. They wrote the data everywhere. So, you know what I mean? Like 432 hertz. That's that measurement of frequency is all over the pyramids. There's different things that you could. It's just irrefutable. It's like, okay, I've done it. I've actually used that equipment and registered in my brain. Okay, this is the result after my hypothesis with independent variables, independent ones. So, I've seen it. I've seen that basically vibration is the reason why, and vibration and density is really just the reason why things are either in a place lower than others or higher than others, right? I mean, just like you guys are saying, it's equilibrium. It has to be a duality. Gravity is not a duality; it's relative. It's based off of all types of directions. It just depends on where the mass is, right? That's what it claims. It just depends on where the mass is and where the center of mass is.
I may get my head chopped off right now by somebody on the panel, but density is cause of vibration.
Yep.
Every matter vibrates with a certain frequency.
Yeah.
Keep going.
No, just that.
Well, I'll tie that together if you like. So on the last show, you were talking about the sand and the oscillation tests that you do to give you these fractal patterns. Well, I think to connect those two together, we live in a fractal world. You know, you can see those patterns everywhere. You know, you've only got to go and look at some of the aerial photography, high altitude shots of the surface of the land itself, and everything seems to be emanating out in a fractal manner. So yeah, I think that it is intrinsically connected in terms of how the Earth presents itself. At the very least, I'm not going to come to any conclusions or even postulate about how things are created through that potential means that potentially we could philosophically go on about forever. But certainly in terms of the way it presents itself, yes, we absolutely live in a fractal world. That much is obviously observably true.
Know about those experiments? Oh, sorry, not to interrupt you, Nathan. Sorry,
That's
but
right.
do you know about the experiments that claim that there's experiments that show that there's life energies that live off of decay, like for instance the morphogenic field.
Yeah, so you're on about crude oil production, right?
Like basically the reason why like starfish can regenerate is because is because they're designed with a morphogenic field. It lives off of decay. It's an infinite loop.
Salamanders.
Yeah, it's like an infinite loop of I mean not infinite, but it potentially could be infinite experimentally.
Can I just add on that, on top of that? Energy
regenerative? Sorry, go ahead.
Actually, John Keely experiments where John Keely proves it, and many people have been reproducing them in Russia. Sorry, not to.
I just want to add on top of that energy cannot be destroyed.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, it can never be destroyed. It can never really be created either. I mean, I've never seen anybody create energy, just manipulate it.
It's like water.
Yeah, we just manipulate it. That's it.
Water. Yeah. It's always there.
Yeah, and water is basically like the memory of essence. Of
it is life on its own, you can say.
Yeah, like it's smart. It has its own awareness dimension. I want to send up more weather balloons. I need to make a weather balloon that goes up with the over 120,000 feet, if that. I don't know if it's even possible. I've seen one that goes 115,000 feet, and it hit something and came hurtling down instantly. It was going up 100 feet per second or something like some very similar to that measurement or that velocity, and it subtly stopped in altitude and just came hurtling back down, debris everywhere.
Been a couple like that, right?
Yeah, so many.
A couple of
recently.
rockets that have gone up there and seemed to just hit something or slow down, and I don't know. It's weird. It's weird that we can't basically send anything past about I think the highest I've seen was like 128,000 feet.
Yeah, that me too. Yeah, I've seen.
I don't think, I don't know if it's just because the balloons can't handle it, or I don't know what's going on up there at that height, but something.
Speaking of that height, if any Glober wants to come in for any questions in regards of their model or the theories that's out right now that everybody's talking about, I'm willing to jump off the plane.
I'd like to see a Glober present their model.
Yeah, I'm willing to be open to any type of I'm willing to go back to being a globetard again if I ever have to. You know what I mean? If it presents in experiments that it's reproducible, if it does. But so far, what I've seen is that we're on an immovable, flat, electromagnetic universe of a physical universe of divine consciousness that has purpose and calibration of frequency. That's what I see. In experiments. Yeah, basically just sound. That's all I've seen really. Experiments is just sound experiments, really.
A small deviation into the scriptures and the Bible. It's the first. It was the word of God, and then everything is actually sound. So sound condenses stuff. It can decondense stuff, if that's the right term to say it. But
right, just like how when I've practiced miracle healing before, like I've actually tried it and it works. Like God could actually heal through you if you if you open up your sincerity, your frequency to that pattern, I suppose. that kind of way of living, I guess. But
Anthony, can you do me a small favor? Can you stop screen sharing just so we don't have two people the same on the icons?
morphogenic field. Yeah, you know, it's funny. TED Talk was gonna.
What is it on screen sharing?
Yeah, you have my face for about an hour.
Oh right, okay.
I don't find myself that pretty, so.
You'll have to give me a
someone
sec,
someone in the chat said, "Why has that guy got 2 spots on the panel?" It's like, no, that's Anthony.
Yeah, you'll have to bear with me. I'm just about to kick ass and Command and Conquer. I'll be done in about 2 minutes.
Yeah, no worries.
You got it. You got it covered.
Play a both Arthur, and then I'll be the flat Arthur. Two of me.
Hey, how is water intelligent?
Because it blueprints all the interactions of the electrons that ever happened, and holds it within an equilibrium of fluidity, I guess, right? Or what is
Eric,
it?
how you doing?
The measurements are that electrons can't be entirely apart or entirely together, right?
I'm now torn because I really want Earth Flattener to have this conversation, but Eric's got something to present, so I'm just going to leave it to you guys to figure it out.
Oh, he can finish. I was just asking. Cool.
Well, good morning, Earth Flattener.
Hey, buddy. How you doing, man?
Very good, very good.
All right, so we're waiting for me, or?
Yeah, go ahead.
Are we presenting? All right.
Okay. Gotta share my screen there.
Awesome.
I guess you don't really need to share my screen, but I'll just share it and you can choose whether or not.
I wish I knew how to.
Everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. So, I recently watched a video by Red Pill Philosophy.
Awesome.
And there was some comment, and I see this a lot. People saying, "Oh, you're suffering from Dunning-Kruger."
Yeah,
I think there's some inherent problems in that. And just to preface, I do have a degree in psychology.
Awesome.
So I'm not an expert first, but I do have a degree. But I think one of the things that experts, and these are notes I took before really researching it, just for my own understanding, is that experts suffer from tunnel vision, and not all experts, but they may. Confirmation bias.
I was going to say conformity bias is the biggest one.
Yeah, because all of them agree because of the fact that they're all getting paid anyway to.
Yeah. Resistance to change, avoiding disruption of livelihood, and you could use different words for this stuff. This is just my quick notes.
Yeah.
This is probably conformity, what you're talking about. More susceptible to peer influence and pressure, maintaining tenure, prestige. So, and then the other thing is the logical problems with this syndrome or effect is who is in the position to claim it. Like an objective party, if somebody says, well, you're suffering from Dunning-Kruger, are they an expert in that field? But if there is an expert, they would not have a motivation to claim otherwise. They would say, oh yeah, he is right. He knows better than me. So they're automatically going to claim, yes, he thinks he knows, because I am the expert. So who would be able to know if the expert?
Right, the expert being
right,
the person
because if
who's
he's
done the most
expert and he's wrong, he's obviously not the expert.
Yeah, are experts infallible and always right? Are non-experts fallible and always wrong? Do all experts on a given field agree on everything? And also, just in a lot of the things we're talking about are very theoretical, and there's a lot of interpretation. And I think that Dunning-Kruger can be more accurately applied to things like work, things that involve manual work and labor. Somebody thinks they're really good at artwork or something, but they're really awful, or building something like they think they're good with carpentry, but they're really awful. Things like that. Whereas you get into like theoretical sciences and things like that, there's a lot of interpretation and a lot of disagreements. And so, determining whether someone thinks they know more than they do is a lot more complicated. And
We can only determine based off their experiments, right? Based off of their successfully proven hypothesis and their, they're successfully proven with independent variable.
Yeah.
We can only measure it with whoever has the most of those that are actually successful, that actually reproduce, that actually could be shown.
Well, there's this guy who's researching claims by experts and things like that. And there's this Time magazine article, David Freeman, and he showed that, or he discovered that brain scans actually change when we hear advice from experts, and our critical thinking is, and there's a caveat, of course, is that he is studying experts, and so that's the inherent problem with that. But also showing that we blindly follow experts in some cases.
Sorry, can you just... sorry, Eric. Can you just read... Sorry to interrupt. Sorry. Can you just scroll back up and just read that first highlighted sentence?
This one?
Is that the one? The one where basically... is it the next one up? Their brain scans... Yes, that one.
So you... okay. Brain scans show that when presented with expert advice, we actually lose our ability to make our own decisions.
Wow.
Again, that's another thing. You need to research it more and look into it more, of course.
So it's hypnotism, basically. It's almost like a form of consciousness manipulation entirely. It's like it flips your entire essence and purpose, direction of living.
And then we have.
Well, that's how they get us, isn't it? They put it. You turn on the television, and you hear somebody, you see somebody with a lab coat, white lab coat. They've got the words "expert" underneath, and now we don't have to critically think anymore because now we could just pay attention to whatever Mr. Expert is saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's experts within various fields that don't agree, and so who's to say which expert is right? And it's, so what I guess basically what I'm finding is that people are claiming this Dunning-Kruger effect, but I think it really should apply more to practical things that can be visibly seen, like constructing things or doing work like painting or things like that. I just had kind of a funny example.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I like that because the abstract aspects of painting and like the expressing essence and purpose and direction and like it actually shows and it displays like exactly if that person really can display like their the nature of what they were designed to do and
I don't know. I've got to pipe in here. I'm really sorry. Because I just don't see this as a good example on account of the fact that any artwork is always completely subjective in terms of its quality. Whereas if you say, for the sake of argument, a mechanic, you go into a garage you've never used before and you say to the mechanic, "Are you a good mechanic?" And the guy goes, "I am the best mechanic in the world." And you go, "Okay, right, I'll definitely leave my car with you then." And then you come back an hour later, he says, "Yeah, I've fixed it all, the oil's been changed." You drive away and it spews oil all over the road and the brakes don't work. Well, that would be Dunning-Kruger. In other words, it's self-evident from his actual ability, which is demonstrated in the car when you pick it up, that he's not as good as he thinks he is.
Yeah, especially if it happens over and over again. Especially if it happens like multiple times, then that's Dunning-Kruger.
No, actually, that's not. You've missed a part of it out, Nathan. The Dunning-Kruger effect is where you think that you're better than you are. You fail to perform as good as what you did, which is that's where you got to. But then, isn't the third part that you refuse to accept that there was a problem with yourself in the first place and blame other things like it was a bad paper or it was a bad, like the refusal to accept that you've just fucked up.
No, it's not. That's not it. So all Dunning-Kruger is they assess the students for their abilities post-exam. So they say, how well do you think you did? And the people who said, I aced the exam, I did fantastically, didn't do as well as the people who were more modest in their, well, I could have perhaps worked a bit harder on section 5. I did research a lot for section 1, but I maybe didn't fill enough of the answer out. I don't know, I'll wait and see how well I did. Those people tended to do better than the ones that went, yeah, aced it. I know exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So it's based off of It's like an example of overconfidence. Overconfidence from the. It's like it's branching the supernatural of your perception of what you
It's summed up. It's summed up with one sentence, which is
the reality that.
It's summed up with one sentence, which is to say, you don't know what you don't know, and an acceptance of that will generally be acquired from somebody who is smarter. So, not knowing that you don't know much tends to fall into the category of people who are overly confident because they don't appreciate how little they know. So it's one of those. I mean,
yeah,
like with any of these,
I like knowing little. I like knowing not much right now. Yeah, I like that too because being comfortable not knowing as much, especially if it's true, right? Especially if it's true that that person doesn't know as much, that they're not expert in the fields.
Or
Even if
knowing
they're not
as much
considered an
is
expert,
how much
even if
little
they're
you know.
yeah, but even if they're considered credible and an expert by society, that also doesn't mean that that person is necessarily an expert too, right? Because society itself could be wrong about the.
one thing I will add about any of these so-called scientific tests or scientific studies, again, they're not scientific. That's the first thing. The second thing is none of us have performed this study, and I bet none of us have actually done any research whatsoever on Mr. Dunning or Mr. Kruger in terms of the actual validity to it or the size of the group that they focused on or any of that stuff. So time and time again I see people.
Why are they pushing it around?
Bear with me a second. Bear with me a second. Bear with me. So time and time again I see people that will quote whatever effect that is deemed to be a scientific explanation of some effect that we notice it normally in society, and you go and actually double check it, and it's got a very small group of people that they're actually focused on. So it doesn't really represent anything. Or you'll find a counter study that did it again and got a totally different result. But these things aren't necessarily useful in terms of presenting them up as absolute fact to make an argument or counter argument. It's more just a useful way of describing something that sometimes is self-evident, like I say with the example of the mechanic, that effect that we're trying to illustrate just by using the words Dunning-Kruger, and us all being on a general understanding what that means about what you're trying to detail, i.e. somebody that thinks they're much better than they actually are in reality.
Yeah, exactly. And so I guess what I'm overall trying to say is that people who use that are just using it as a card or to label people, and they're not in a position to be able to determine whether somebody's an expert or not. So it just generally that's how people use it.
So a good example of Dunning-Kruger would be CERN then, right? Because CERN is confident that they're the ones that know the answers to the universe, right? But they deceive everybody because they tell us.
I just dropped a link in the chat on both the live and the Hangout that the Colbert report, whatever it is, talked about the crisis in science. I thought was really good. It's about 30 minutes long. He unpacks a lot of what we're talking about: the problem with the peer review process, the problem with ethics, the problem with funding, the problem with all that stuff. Is all.
Oh, yeah, the funding is like all towards the Falkland Islands people, the people who meet in the Falkland Islands every year, southeast of Argentina. Every year they meet there. Billions and trillionaires.
Is this a globalist report, Paul?
Yep.
No, it's not globalist.
Okay,
it's Colbert. No, he may be, but he just if you listen, he speaks about the problem with science. This is the crisis of science. It just talks about all the issues. It's just it was good. It was a good video.
All right, so we weren't talking about the elites. Okay.
I really liked Anthony's explanation about the syndrome when he added the third point. It was actually like he was describing a globe head. It was brilliant.
John Keeley apparently proved that he proved levitation is actually a
You're talking about a morphogenic field with John Keeley. Is that correct?
Oh no, well no, that was sorry, that was a separate. The morphogenic field. I was going to mention that how TED Talks was going to do a scientific conference. Apparently, a scientific conference on the morphogenic field on YouTube, and they deleted it the first day that they were going to post it. They deleted it, and then so basically, I mean that's irrelevant. But anyway, morphogenic field. It's been proven like that starfish. The reason why they could regenerate is because their mitochondria live off of decay. or like their the vibration of their it's kind of like a loop. It's like a loop of electrons kind of on. It's crazy. And
But it's got an application to regenerate itself. Is that what you're saying? Like
yeah, and it's apparently it's experimentally they've done it, and you could exponentially increase the rate at which it works, because you could.
All right, so somebody loses an arm or actually a leg or whatever appendage is. We're trying to find this type of driver that the salamander or this is able to regenerate its own self or a piece of itself.
Right, like the answer behind like why exactly is it that it has the imprint of like going back to the way it was, right? Like because it has a field, because it has a field of energy that it resonates with, that is meant to resonate at a higher level, but also at an equilibrium, right? Like at a balanced level too, pure level. And like
can I add on top of that?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Sometimes people that have the amputees that are missing an arm or a leg, they say that they can still sense their fingers.
Right.
Like, it's probably something to do with.
Right, because we have that neural connection to the electrons themselves. So we're
call it phantom limb syndrome, something like that.
Yeah. And just
Is
like
that
sleep
also-
paralysis, it's just the same thing as sleep paralysis, actually, technically too, because sleep paralysis is when you're conscious and it's very odd. I don't know if you ever had sleep paralysis, but wow, it's odd.
Yeah, I do.
I've done experiments on it. It is odd. It is very, very mystical and very. I thought I knew a lot about sleep paralysis until I actually started doing real deep data sets. I started going through data sets. Columbia University, Bloomsburg University. You know what I mean? Just chilling in the laboratory with my friend Josh Davis and just chilling and doing experiments. And it's interesting stuff, man. I'm still new to it, but I haven't seen, nobody's ever shown me that a vacuum can exist. That's for sure, right? I mean, this Mud Fossil University guy, I really want you guys to watch this, because this is incredible. The electron flooding of the new atomic model. I linked it up in the group chat somewhere, and it's this guy Roger. He's absolutely exquisite, elegantly exquisite with his education, his experience. His experiments are amazing. He does many experiments. This is his channel where he just shows the results of his experiments, but he has other on different sites. He has his actual experiments chosen. But I'll post it again here. It's incredible.
Don't blame me, guys, but are we just a tiny bit off topic, or this is okay? Because I think I'm fine with that topic, but I think we're getting slightly off.
Yeah.
Blame me if I'm not right. I don't mind.
Is Mark still here? Where'd Mark go?
I didn't hear what you said. What did you say? Dan?
I think we're getting slightly off topic. I like all the topics. I'm fascinated. I would like to go on, but I think we're just deviating slightly off our main course.
Yeah.
I know we're into science.
Well, unfortunately, we don't have a glober in here to give us his best evidence of gravity.
Yeah.
Or anything else for that matter.
We'll love one. Can I then just say something to Anthony, because earlier I spoke about it, and it's to do with his studies now, and I don't know if he got that. Early on, I was saying that I obtained some phone numbers of some physics teachers and some PhDs that I will be contacting tomorrow and getting a discussion with them about the second law of thermodynamics. I'll be trying to get some answers, and then I'll be sharing my results with you guys on the panel.
Okay, cool.
So we'll see how that goes. It will be interesting.
Oh yeah. I love that. I love that. I love that. I love seeing the different results from different professors and their curriculum. It's incredible.
I would just go and ask, where's the barrier?
Right.
Nathan,
Is there an experiment with container, without, like just like Nathan says, without a container vacuum? Possible.
Were you trying to get my attention, Anthony?
Yeah, I asked Rumpus in a chat somewhere yesterday if you could give me the definition of gravity, and I'll read what he put verbatim, and we'll just laugh at the end of it. He says, I can define gravity very easily. It is the force of attraction of mass to other mass as described by Newton in his universal law of gravitation, which is caused, get this, which is caused by the bending of space-time as per general relativity. You can prove gravity by standing on some scales and by any number of gravity experiments. Like what? Of course, including Cavendish, which, if you like, you can buy a kit to test yourself. And of course, all my points have been verified, proved, validated, experimented upon, and peer-reviewed millions of times by professional scientists and scientific institutions, whereas all you have is your stupidity and wishful thinking, Dunning-Kruger exemplified. And of course, and of course, you can't cope with debate on the subject, and you are too stupid to understand simple explanations because you don't have the understanding. You don't have the understanding of a science from a 13-year-old's perspective. Well, Rumpus is telling people these things in these threads on pro baller channels, and we all know that the bending of space-time, as per Einstein, peace be upon him, is a mathematical construct. It's
RB upon him.
Yeah, but it's a mathematical construct, and it can't cause anything to anything ever just because it's maths. But he's telling people that it is the mass attractive mass caused by the bending of space-time. No, Rumpus. The bending of space-time replaced Newtonian principles. It didn't cause Newtonian principles. You appear to have this wrong. Yeah, accuse me of Dunning-Kruger.
Anthony, can you ask Rumpus, what exactly does bend the space?
Yeah, what's the force that bends the space-time?
Yeah, ask this question. What?
And with that, I will say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience as I bid you all farewell from the live section of this show. If you're watching on Nathan Oakley 1980, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Also, a massive thank you to all of the debating panel for making this live debate possible. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and check out the forum on nathanoakley.com. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!